I think that was 2007, 20 something, thereabout. That's when I started really hearing
Yeah.
about the World Food Program. And I just thought it was apt because you came into the space at the time where
Yeah.
Nigeria truly needed durable solutions. You have mentioned lots of things. First, the fact that you have been able to reach out to 2.1 million Nigerians. That's a whole lot, and we appreciate the hard work and effort that must have gone into this because we have the challenges facing us, staring at us in the face, and we must provide solutions to them. That's what we're here for. First, on behalf of the president, who would be very excited
Yeah.
to, I don't know if you've held a meeting with him so far.
No, I'm happy to, but I'm working with the VP, now you, and we'll see.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
like I'm happy to actually tell the president
Yeah, I'd be
about you
happy to
too.
meet him, yeah.
That's really very big. That's the project in Kanu, and I think it's something that the president should be there himself as the number one advocate for food security in Nigeria and the chairman of ECOWAS.
That's
So
right.
it makes
Shows something.
yes, it makes a bigger statement for you if the president is there because it simply shows his commitment, not just for Nigeria, for the entire West African region where he is. And I'm happy to make that connection also for you and have you invite him in person to be there at the lunch.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Without going through most of what you have said, I I felt saddened by one thing, which is the fact that you had your budgeting year at the beginning of February, and I feel like, oh no, we missed that. But
Right, that's
with
right.
you, I'm
Yeah.
sure we can still have some reflection of the priorities of the new government
Of course.
in your work plan going forward. We need to first be able to plan together and we need to be able to implement together. We have a huge mandate on us from this ministry. We're dealing with both the humanitarian response, we're leading the humanitarian response in Nigeria, and we're equally managing the poverty alleviation and social investment programs. So it's even gone beyond the typical social investment programs which we have to be more encompassing to the level of poverty alleviation. Of course, you know the figures, and they're not new to you, that we have over 133 million Nigerians that are actually affected by multidimensional poverty. And one of the biggest challenge is actually hunger. So one of the projects which we are pushing forward as a ministry is actually the Zero Hunger Project.
Yes, great.
Yes, and it's one of the key things which I would like for your team to work with us on. So it's not just going to be about school feeding. School feeding is just going to be one, homegrown school feeding would just be one aspect of the Zero Hunger Project. So we're going to be targeting different nutritious programs. So we're targeting both pregnant women, children under 5, school feeding, feeding of persons who are affected by humanitarian crisis, other persons of concern, including refugees that have found themselves within our space. We have over 80,000 persons as refugees presently in Nigeria. The state I come from, Cross River State, has over 46,000 refugees, and these are just those who are registered.
Yeah.
If the registered ones are 86,000, right, the unregistered ones are probably half of that. And some of them have integrated into host communities and they're beginning to find ways to adapt. We need to be able to get across to them. Listening to you, I could almost feel like you stole the words from my head. Yes, it's been a while since I met someone who sounds like me. You actually do, in many ways. So part of the innovation which we're bringing on board is what we call Humanitarian Hub. In fact, in the last 3 days, we've been going back and forth on the designs of the Humanitarian Hub. And I'll just give you a snapshot into what it is about.
Excellent.
So we are beginning to understand by the day that interventions at a very high level may not reach the targeted population. And so we want to create about 774 humanitarian hubs, one in each local government. Now, without bothering you with everything that would happen in that space, I'll just go to 3 things that are directly linked to you. Number 1 is the cash transfer point, which you have supported us to develop that policy framework, and then now we'll now work with this humanitarian hub to go on the implementation angle. Like she has said, we're happy to hit the road.
So that might include the identification of people.
So the identification, verification. Remember, it's a dynamic register of persons coming in and going out of the bracket. So we have offices that are within the local government in that hub that will actually work to verify those who are there, if they deserve to be there, who in the community should be on the list, who is not there, and who should we take off because they probably got a job, things got better for them, and they're out of the envelope that we're dealing with. Now, another thing that will happen in that humanitarian hub is actually what we refer to as the farmers market. But it's beyond that. So it's what you're describing at a large scale. You're dealing at the global scale. Now this is the micro scale.
Great.
So for this, what that center is going to be doing is to offtake food items that are locally produced in that community. So remember that we have programs like the JEEP program that actually provides loans to farmers, cooperatives. Now, what we want to do is when we give them these loans in their cooperative and support them during their farming season, they can sell those food items, the ones which they're not consuming, back to government in those hubs. Part of the food that will be gotten from there is what we will use for humanitarian response. And the other part of it will be sold back to both the local community and outsiders at a subsidized rate.
Excellent.
So this is one of the things we're doing around food security and, of course, your mandate, which is to ensure that people can get food. That way we can ensure zero hunger. Because it's more sustainable to do so. If we give you a loan, you're paying back the loan. But while you're producing the food, we can still take it off from you. And so we can work with you on that to see that the food that is taken off at the level of the local government can be moved even all the way to Kano to be aggregated and sold out of the country.
That's exactly the potential.
Exactly. So we can equally be like a feeding mechanism for you, who is the big mega, with the micro, and we can feed in all the way down to you. So we're equally going to be having food banks in those local governments. So from these food banks, we can feed into what you're doing. The final one is the, I would want to call it food processing zone or processing zone. So part of the, in quotes now, vocational skills and job creation, which we're looking at the local level, is to see what they are able to process locally in terms of food that they can process. So I'll give you an example. In my place, they would love to process gari. They do a lot of cassava, and they can process the cassava to become gari. There are places where they do groundnuts and can process the groundnuts in their little microwave. So it's not, you know how they process gari in Nigeria. So it's not like you have a big house. No, no, no. They are frying it, they are processing it, and it's going. And it's the same thing that happens for different kinds of food. The millet, the guinea corn, all of these are being processed locally and sold. So that hub still creates an opportunity for job creation where they are processing items that will be sold and can be taken off by you. So for me, you're like a ready market in my head that can help pick up from those our local farmers whatever we have given them the loans to be able to farm. And then even the processed food can be bought to use for interventions in the different parts of the country where we have humanitarian crisis. So we are really very strong and committed to the homegrown school feeding program, and we really need your support with it. We have about 9 million so far children that have been fed. We want to be able to expand it. Like I said, the class limit is usually is quite slim between primary 1 and 3. We want to bring it all the way down to the younger age group so that we can still catch them before their brain formation is concluded. And then, of course, support these ones we are presently supporting, and if possible, those who might be in the secondary schools, a form of providing nutrition and, of course, boosting their immunity amongst other health benefits that they will be getting from it. Of course, on the sideline, which I don't really like to mention, is the fact that it might keep them in school, but we're finding more lucrative ways to keep children in school. So we might even be deploying the cash transfer to be able to keep them in school as part of the conditions for giving you the cash, the number of children that are within school age that you have in school.
Yeah. No, a
So-
conditional cash transfer in this way can be very helpful. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So those are one of the things we're looking at. For us, I'll be really very happy to be at the meeting in Paris, and I'll put it on my calendar and make myself available for it. I would also be sending staff to the regional meeting, probably those who are in charge of homegrown school feeding and the rest of it,
Perfect.
that are directly linked to what we should be discussing. Something which is innovative, and I would really need to have you on that team, and this is a strong appeal. And you're probably the first person who I'm making, well, you're the first, not probably, you're the first person I'm making that appeal to be a member of that team. And one of the driving factors why I'm making the appeal is that beyond your work in the World Food Program, you've done a whole lot of work around resource mobilization, working in the economic and social space, from the profile which I read,
Yeah.
and you will be very, very helpful to us. The president very soon will be launching the Presidential Humanitarian and Poverty Alleviation Trust Fund.
Okay, excellent.
So we are trying to create a basket of fund where we can mobilize resources both from government, so as part of our budget allocation, special interventions, and other tax earmarking and the rest of it that can come from the angle of government. And then we're looking at donor partners, development partners all across the world, different levels. We're also looking at crowdfunding. We're looking at funding from other countries, looking at funding from individuals. We're looking strongly at funding from the private sector.
Excellent. Yeah.
I'm sure you remember what happened in 2020 when we had the COVID-19 pandemic. The private sector for the first time in Nigeria came out really very strong, and they came under the name of CACOVID,
Okay.
and they gave strong support to the entire COVID-19 pandemic response. So we want to be able to pool that support for the humanitarian response, because the number of persons that are actually affected is really quite high.
That's right.
And insecurity and other things are still pushing it up. Some places that never used to be affected, like in the northwest, as you said, and in the north central, especially Benue. Benue is heavily hit right now. Would also need your support to intervene in those areas. We're going with the president to Unger in a couple of days.
Excellent.
Yes, and
Okay.
we would be sending our invitation across to you and your organization to co-host and probably support in whatever form. We're hosting a side meeting, which is on migration, humanitarian response, and poverty alleviation
In New York.
in New York.
Okay.
So would need you to
Okay.
co-host and co-sponsor if you can, to support us in whatever way you can, and of course send in representatives of yours. If you're coming to Unger, that would be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
If you're not coming, then
Now
probably
we have a team there, of course. I will
Exactly,
not be there, but
exactly.
The
So
New York and the Rome
team,
teams are
yeah, so
Yeah.
they can actually be
Yeah.
part of our side meeting. We're
Yeah.
hoping that the president will be there himself, because
Okay.
one of the key things which he wants to address, I'm sure you've listened to his 8-point agenda, and food security, poverty eradication is topmost
Yeah.
on his agenda.
Yeah.
He's already declared a state of emergency
Exactly right.
on food security. So, with all of this on the front burner, it would be very important for your team to be part of that meeting. So, I would really, really want you to be a part of the persons who would provide support to the Humanitarian Trust Fund,
Okay.
which the president would be launching. Finally, I agree with you strongly that we need to speak up for those in need, and we're going to continue to do it at the global scene. We're going to continue to do it. If you find opportunities where you believe we should be at meetings, speaking on the work you do and the need for us to be able to mobilize more resources for your organization and for the government of Nigeria, I'm happy to be there to raise that voice. I am an authority in Nigeria, and I can confidently tell the world what's
Yeah.
going on here and the kind of support
Yeah,
that we need
fantastic.
and how urgent we need those support. I'm happy to work with you and your team to get this going. Once again, I want to thank you most profoundly for coming for this meeting. This has been one of the most engaging sections I've had in my 3 weeks in office, and I'm glad that you came at the foundational stage so you can know our priorities as government and how best you can key into our priorities and support us to achieve results. Once again, thank you so much.
We'll leave you with a few copies.
Of Humanitarian Poverty Alleviation to discuss issues of humanitarian with the Honorable Minister.
Fantastic. I'm David Stevenson, the representative of the World Food Program here in Nigeria. Yeah, okay. You want me to look here? All right, let's start again. I'm David Stevenson, the representative of the World Food Program here in Nigeria, and I came to the office to congratulate the Honourable Minister on her appointment to Cabinet. It's a massive responsibility here. Nigeria, the largest population in Africa, the largest economy in Africa, and of course, great opportunities for growth of a middle-income country that Nigeria is, but also significant challenges. The number of people in need of humanitarian assistance is also the largest number in Africa. So thrilled to be here as a partner of Nigeria, and I came to congratulate Honorable Minister on her appointment and to pledge the support of the World Food Program along the way, and also to talk about some like-minded ideas we have to collaborate going forward under the ultimate leadership, of course, of President Tinubu.
Yeah, can you tell us some of these ideas, especially the issue of zero hunger that the Honorable Minister mentioned while you were discussing?
I've been very impressed in such a short time to hear about the minister's leadership putting together the strategy for the ministry. We talked about zero hunger. We talked about the humanitarian hubs in every local government area in the country. We talked about the World Food Program's potential to support those hubs through buying food locally and also providing assistance in the cash transfer in food voucher network that we have primarily been focusing on in the northeast of the country, but available to assist nationwide with the Zero Hunger campaign.
And what are you collaborating with the ministry in terms of the policy information, especially the humanitarian trust fund that the Honorable Minister talked about?
Well, I heard for the first time about this very innovative initiative led by the minister, the Humanitarian Trust Fund. So I'm really interested to hear more about it. But I think my understanding is it's an idea for the government leadership to bring together the private sector, investors, not only Nigerian but also potentially internationally, to help leverage funding for real impact, meeting the needs of humanitarian people in Nigeria, but doing it in a sustainable investment approach, which I really think and appreciate as a solution for Nigeria.
Now, finally, what are you taking out of this meeting?
What I'm taking out of this is renewed energy. I came to Nigeria to really help, I actually came back to the World Food Program after some years away. I was mentioning to the minister, but I came back to come to Nigeria because I really believe in the country and the ability of Nigerians to work out their own challenges and to prosper as so many have. And it's just really exciting for me and my office to be a part of it. So I've come with interest, and I'm leaving with even more energy and interest than I came.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Thank you.